Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Dear brothers and sisters, for those who are still not yet registered, please do so. Please be informed that all the first year and second year landscape architecture students, you are required to register your attendance, and for all participants, you are also required to sign your attendance in order to obtain the CPD point from ILAM. This webinar will be fully online. This event will be held in 3 sessions. The first is an opening ceremony. Second session will be a presentation by the participants, and last session will be a closing ceremony. You can join this event through the link provided at our website, which is UMRAN Bhinneka 2020 at wixsite.com. The link will be provided at the chat box. Good morning and attention to all lecturers, brothers and sisters. I would like to invite all of you to take your seat and please put your gadgets and other devices on mute as our ceremony will begin shortly.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. In expressing our humbleness and gratitude towards Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, we will begin our ceremony with the recitation of dua. I would like to call upon Brother Muhammad Afiq Zakaria to recite the words of the Almighty Allah. Please welcome.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Al-Fatiha. A'udzu billahi minasyaitonir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم اجعل جمعنا هذا جمعا مرحوما وتفرقنا من بعده تفرقا معصوما. اللهم اختم لنا بحسن الخاتمة ولا تختم علينا بسوء الخاتمة. رب يسر ولا تعسر وتمم بالخير. اللهم يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دينك وعلى طاعتك. اللهم اجعلنا من الناجحين والفائزين في كل امتحان في الدين في الدنيا والآخرة. ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. وصلى الله على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين. Now I will recite Surah Ar-Ra'd from verse 6 to verse 10. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ويستعجلونك بالسيئة قبل الحسنة وقد خلت من قبلهم المثلات وإن ربك لذو مغفرة للناس على ظلمهم وإن ربك لشديد العقاب. ويقول الذين كفروا لولا أنزل عليه آية من ربه إنما أنت منذر ولكل قوم هاد. الله يعلم ما تحمل كل أنثى وما تغيض الأرحام وما تزداد وكل شيء عنده بمقدار. عالم الغيب والشهادة الكبير المتعال. سواء منكم من أسر القول ومن جهر به ومن هو مستخف بالليل وسارب بالنهار. صدق الله العظيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته.
Amin amin ya Rabbal Alamin. Thank you Brother Muhammad Afiq Zakaria for the beautiful recitation. Such magnificent verses from the Holy Quran. May Allah bless us in our actions and words, and may we get something useful from the selected verses of Quran just now. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise to recite Asma'ul Husna and sing the Negaratu and Al-IUM song.
نسألك يا من هو الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الرحمن الرحيم الملك القدوس السلام المؤمن المهيمن العزيز الجبار المتكبر الخالق البارئ المصور الغفار القهار الوهاب الرزاق الفتاح العليم القابض الباسط الخافض الرافع المعز المذل السميع البصير الحكم اللطيف الخبير الحليم العظيم الغفور الشكور العلي الكبير الحفيظ المقيت الحسيب الجليل الكريم الرقيب المجيب الواسع الحكيم الودود المجيد الباعث الشهيد الحق الوكيل القوي المتين الولي الحميد المحسن المبدع المعيد المحيي المميت الحي القيوم الواجد الماجد الواحد الصمد القادر المقتدر المقدم المؤخر الأول الآخر الظاهر الباطن الوالي المتعالي البار التواب المنتقم العفو رؤوف مالك الملك ذو الجلال والإكرام المقسط الجامع الغني المغني المانع الضار النافع النور الهادي البديع الباقي الوارث الرشيد الصبور الذي ليس كمثله شيء وهو السميع البصير اللهم صل أفضل الصلاة على أسعد المخلوقات كسيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم عدد معلوماتك ومداد كلماتك كلما ذكرك ذاكرون وغفل عن ذكره الغافلون.
enlighten the future, share the wisdom to the spirit of Islam. Revelation and reason, we shall excel, we shall prevail. Merging faith and knowledge, we, the Khalifa, we will fulfill the Amanah. Together we make the world a better place. Forever expand the culture of Iqra. IUM is to realize the meaning of Ramadan al-Amin. Together we make the world a better place. Forever expand the culture of Iqra. IUM is to realize the meaning of mercy to all the worlds, for all mankind.
All guests, you may be seated.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin, wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Our honorable guest yang berusaha, LAR Dr. Jasasikin bin Abdul Sani, Head of Department Landscape Architecture, the lineup of office bearers, lecturers, professionals, fellow participants, and also students. Ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome to UMRAN 2020. National Landscape Architecture Seminar organized by the Department of Landscape Architecture, Kuliah of Architecture and Environmental Design, International Islamic University, Malaysia. On behalf of the Department of Landscape Architecture and KAED, we are very honored to be in the presence of our respectable guests and fellow participants on this beautiful morning. Praise to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, our Lord, Creator and Sustainer of this whole universe. Peace and blessing be showered upon our Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, his family, companions, fellow Muslim leaders, and those who follow the right path of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala until Yaumul Qiyamah.
Ladies and gentlemen, UMRAN is an annual seminar that is organized to provide a discussion and knowledge sharing platform among the students, researchers, and professionals of the built environment field. The seminar is also to expose us regarding the current research projects that have been conducted on various fields in the built environment. For this year's seminar, the theme for UMRAN 2020 is Sustainable Future Development towards 2050. This is aiming to integrate all human interventions in addressing the global issues such as overpopulation, scarce resources, rapid urbanizations, which has led to environmental degradation, and all other related matters. The research projects will be further discussed, covering these 5 selected sub-themes, which are: firstly is public space and placemaking, secondly, sustainable and healthy well-being, thirdly, accessibility and networking, fourthly, ecological and environmental sciences, and lastly, cultural and landscape conservation.
Without further delay, we would like to invite the Program Manager of UMRAN 2020, Brother Ahmad Haris bin Zulkifli, to deliver his welcoming speech. Please welcome.
Thank you very much to the Master of Ceremony. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and very good morning. First of all, as the project manager, it is a great pleasure for me to welcome all the distinguished guests. The Dean of Kuliah of Architecture and Environmental Design, Prof. Abdul Razak bin Sapian, Head of Department of Landscape Architecture, Dr. Jasasikin bin Abdusani, the panels for webinar forum, respective judges, lecturer lineups, and fellow students. I am pleased to have all of you in this opening ceremony for UMRAN Webinar 2020. UMRAN is an annual seminar that is organized to provide a discussion and knowledge sharing platform among the students, researchers, and professionals of the built environment field. The theme for UMRAN 2020 is Sustainable Future, the Development Towards 2050. It is aimed to integrate all human intervention. It is aimed to integrate all human intervention in addressing the global issues in general. Due to the pandemic of COVID-19, all of us were affected with this issue. But we accept this as a challenge to manage this event during this pandemic. I hope this event will be beneficial for all. Before I end my speech, I would like to extend my gratitude to our coordinators, Assistant Prof. Dr. Zainul Mukrim bin Haji Baharudin and Associate Prof. Dr. Rashidi bin Othman for their guide and endless support in making this webinar event successful. It's surely not an easy journey to come to this day, and yet here we are, Alhamdulillah. Thank you for your support and have a nice day. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, Brother Ahmad Haris bin Zulkifli, for the insightful speech.
Now, we would like to present our respectable Dean Kuliah of Architecture and Environmental Design, Dr. Abdul Razak Safian, to deliver his speech video. Please welcome.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya wal mursalin Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Thank you very much to the Master of Ceremony. Dear brothers and sisters, first of all, I would like to extend my gratitude to the Highness Subhanallah Ta'ala for joining all of us in this very fine day for this beneficial event. UMRAN is an annual seminar that is organized to provide a discussion and knowledge sharing platform among the students, researchers, and professionals of the built environment field. The seminar is also to expose us regarding the current research project that have been conducted on various fields in the built environment. Regarding the COVID-19 outbreak, it has led to the Movement Control Order MCO and Recovery Movement Control Order RMCO from 18 March 2020 and affected all academic activities in Malaysia. However, given the current development regard to the COVID-19 pandemic, the university has decided to adopt Emergency Remote Teaching and Learning ERTL to continue lectures until all students are allowed back on campus. For this year's seminar, it will be conducted online through webinar. The theme for UMRAN 2020 webinar is Sustainable Future Development Towards 2050. This is aiming to integrate all human intervention in addressing the global issues such as overpopulations, scarce resources, rapid urbanization, which has led to environmental degradations and all other related matters. On that note, I wish the best for the organizer, the third-year student of Landscape Architecture, for conducting the UMRAN Webinar 2020. Please stay safe and don't forget to practice physical distancing with social bonding. Thank you and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Stay safe at home. Kita jaga kita.
Thank you. Please give a big round of applause to Dr. Abdul Razak Safian, our Honorable Dean.
Now, we would like to invite our respectable Head of Department, Landscape Architecture, to deliver his speech and launch our event afterwards. Please welcome.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala asrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Rabbi israh li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. Subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana innaka antal alimul hakim. Assalamualaikum and very good morning. Welcome to UMRAN Webinar 2020. UMRAN is an annual seminar that is organized to provide a discussion and knowledge sharing platform among the students, researchers, and professionals of the built environment. Unlike in the previous years, where the UMRAN seminar has been conducted through the normal physical seminar presentation, but this time around, UMRAN 2020 seminar will be conducted through virtual presentation in the need to deal with the current situation of COVID-19 pandemic. It is great to know that the organizer has managed to deal with the limitation and challenges brought by the pandemic by adapting the new way of conducting this seminar with the current situation. Once again, Alhamdulillah, despite all limitations we have to face, we are today, with the blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, still managed to conduct this significant program. On that note, I would like to congratulate third-year students of landscape architecture for their success to organize this program. And with the name of Allah, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, I am pleased to launch UMRAN 2020. Assalamu alaikum.
Please give a big round of applause to Dr. Jasasikin bin Abdul Sani.
Dear fellow lecturers, brothers and sisters, now we will present the webinar forum entitled Sustainable Future 2050, an agenda for future development. The speaker guest is from LAR Liu Yingyi from Ilam and Assistant Professor Dr. Jamila Osman from Department of Landscape Architecture IIUM. Please welcome.
Hello, hi, and Assalamualaikum. Welcome to today's UMRAN Webinar 2020. This event hosted by third-year landscape architecture student from Kuliah of Architecture and Environmental Design IIUM. My name is Sazarul Izzat bin Saadun, and I will be your moderator today. We are so excited that you are able to join us today. We have a great speakers presentation coming right up. Today, we will be talking about the UMRAN 2020 main theme, that is Sustainable Landscape 2050 and Agenda for Future Development. There are two more subtopics under this main theme, that is Public Space and Ecological Sciences, and the second one, Accessibility and Landscape Conservation. The objective of why we are here today is to benefit from this expert insight on the subject matter, maybe their experiences, their history, their story, regarding the subject and whatever it is that related to the topic. We hope that you guys going to walk away with a lot, and I will try to make this forum as interactive as possible to everyone. A couple of things to keep in mind throughout this webinar broadcast. Look, I encourage interaction, but there is no questioning until the end of speaker's presentation. Also, I would like to remind the audience to minimize the distraction as much as possible. Silent and turn your phone face down if you need to. Without further ado, let us introduce our first panel today, LR Liu Yingyi from ILAM. And the second one, we have Assistant Professor Dr. Jamilah Osman, a representative from IIM itself. Okay, to take off with, we would like to welcome the first speaker, LR Liu Yingyi from ILAM, Institute of Landscape Architect Malaysia, to present her insight on the topic of public space and ecological sciences. Please welcome.
Thank you, our moderator Sajaru. Today I have this interesting topic, public spaces and ecological science. So I would like to start with some rough figures for you to imagine how the condition when we reach to 2050. And according to current rough estimation, our population in Malaysia is around 32.6 million people, and urbanization rate is 76%, which means 76% of these 32.6 million of people staying in urban area. And from the Department of Statistics Malaysia, projection of this population by 2050 is 44 million and urbanization rate is 85 to 90%. So it means like if you think that you're staying in a congested area, and by 2050 you will have additional 10 to 15% people sharing the same space with you. And this projection may be earlier than 2050, and by end of year I believe we will have the more accurate figure because our government is doing the population census now. So with this group of population, we actually need more space, be it housing, recreational, commercial, institute, infrastructure. So how we get this land? We always develop, expand from the urban fringe. So we use this, we extend from this urban fringe. Normally we will substitute with the agricultural land or the natural forest. And here we can see how important the role as a landscape architect when we sacrifice this green area to this infrastructure and buildings, how a landscape architect can rehabilitate to recover the natural loss. And to help this situation, ILAM actually come up with this LAA 2050 in 2017. LAA 2050 stand for Landscape Architecture 2050. It's actually something look like this. We have 10 focus area, and this 10 focus strategic area. So we actually divide the scope and help landscape architect to direct them. How should we focus to better on this situation, especially the problem with this population growth? Okay, so today I would like to highlight three area in three strategy focus area in this LA 2050 that directly relate to our topic today. So the first one is the area 2 resource planning. Inside this LA 2050, it stated that landscape architects should safeguard and incorporate effective resources management in each design approach. So be it throughout the time and especially during the initial stage. Primarily the fragile environment components of water, air, food waste, and natural sensitive ecosystem via conservation, preservation, and or rehabilitation efforts. Area number 4, conducive living. Overpopulation has caused a deterioration in the quality of life, hence promoting conducive and inspiring living environments should be a key priority for landscape architects. So key strategies include creating more public space, be it horizontal or vertical. Right now our space is very limited, so if we keep expand horizontally, we will lose many forests in short time. So the vertical increase vertically also a way to gain more land. Public spaces in urban area, enhance blue-green infrastructure. Blue-green infrastructure referring to natural and semi-natural landscape elements. Promoting food security via urban farming, combating climate change through design, and promoting thermal comfort in every spatial design. And area number 5, security and safety. Natural and human threats have escalated the past decades, and landscape architecture play a vital role in designing landscape safe spaces and places which respond to natural disasters phenomena. So we can see that here we already highlight about the what we done and the things actually come back to us. We might say that it's a part of the natural disasters, but the cause of these natural disasters is we as the human, we disturb the environment. So the chain effect is happening, and the effect is actually directly fall on us. So one of the example I would like to highlight is like the flash flood. We always heard that some people say because the rainwater volume increase. It doesn't true, because the main issue of this is the surface runoff cannot get into the river on time. Before this situation happen, the housing area, the development still surrounded by a lot of natural area, natural ground, so the water can seep through, and of course the trees help to reduce the rain speed, and then the water can seep through into the ground. Of course, partly on the hard surface, it will just flow to the drain. But due to this urbanization, we have a lot of development, and all become hard surface, not permeable. So all these water they have no place to go. So what we do is we keep direct the water go to the drain as fast as possible, and the drain eventually channel to the river. And by the time all area built up with this hard surface, the water need to go to the river at the same time, but the river cannot cater it, because the river happen to happen naturally and cater for the water that happened before. It's not based on our design, right? So all this flash flood is actually human action, effect from human action. So as a landscape architect, if we understand all this cycle, all these reason behind, then we can help to reduce this issue by prepare all these we call it design technology, like green infrastructure. We plan it at the early stage. Okay, another thing we always look at the other ecological science, right? When we talk about ecological, we always will think about flora and fauna and wildlife. Actually, they are part of the ecology. So as a landscape architect, besides of knowing all these living organism, we also need to understand fully about all these biochemical cycles, such as carbon cycle, hydrological cycle, rock cycle, nitrogen cycle, sulfur cycle, and so on. By understand all these cycle, we can design to incorporate we design the space, at the same time provide for human needs and fulfill the wildlife needs. At the same time, we try to recover and balance the disturbed environment. And another thing that we need to really study through for the start now for the next 30 years is multifunctional landscape. Multifunctional landscape is a space when we design is not only taken for single use. if possible, because our land is really become lesser and lesser, so when we design a green space and landscape area, if possible, we try to increase the usage more than one. One example is like public park. So public park, besides of design it to provide shade, to provide canopy area for wildlife, to be provide recreational area for human to use, like recreational, like jogging, walk around, relax, and we can prepare a space for urban farming. We also can design the park as a stormwater management area. So the urban farming not only at the short time, like provide the local food in a period for the community nearby. If we plan in the long term, we can also incorporate agroforestry, where we can prepare all these forest species, and in long term we can harvest the timber. So all this we can do it in a public space, in a public park. So this is how this is one of the action that we can better for the population growth and lack of land, and to fully utilize the public space. Okay, so far this is my sharing. Thank you.
Thank you, LR Liu Yingyi, for the amazing presentation just now. And next, we will be having our second speaker for the webinar today, Assistant Professor Dr. Jamila Osman from Landscape Department, KAED IIUM. She going to deliver her presentation on accessibility and landscape conservation. With that, I ask you to give full attention to Dr. Jamila and help me in welcoming her today. Dr. Jamila, please welcome.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and selamat pagi to the audience. Thank you to Brother Sazarul as our today's moderator. And I also would like to congratulate the UMRAN committee for initiating this platform so that we can discuss on the theoretical and practical issues concerning the sustainable development of future Agenda 2050. The topic that is yet to discuss concerning the accessibility and landscape conservation is found concurrent to the theme of UMRAN. Okay, so let us start by asking, what is cultural landscape meant to us? Okay, so perhaps different people will understand it differently, or they accept cultural landscape in different kinds of view or values. Okay, so to understand the character of cultural landscape would be useful in order to justify its protection. Okay, interestingly, culture may describe the manner in which humans connects himself to the landscape and how he experiences it. So meaning that how a person actually get himself blend into a landscape. This is the issues. Okay. So for instance, we take a case of Kampung Baru. Year in, year out, if a person has been there, you may experience or you may want to appreciate the social economic value of the landscape. Okay, people may go there perhaps to enjoy a plate of nasi lemak, or perhaps to enjoy the taste of tom yum or something like that. So again, this is another value that we may categorize it as a social economic value. So this is my personal view. Perhaps others may view and observe it differently. In that manner, we have the two connectivity between a man and an environment. So this describes a complex society from the pre to the modern eras. Thus, an argument that debates that a cultural landscape should involve human touch, to me, I think has basis. Okay. So having familiarized with the character, perhaps may leads one to a protection exercise. In terms of protecting a cultural landscape, normally it can be done through preservation, restoration and conservation. I wouldn't want to explain the meaning each of the terms. I think when come to that, I think each one of us is able to actually, notice that certain protection has to go with the aims of the development that shall take place on the site. Okay, so cultural landscape should be protected. Why we need to protect a cultural landscape that has heritage value? All natural landscape has heritage value, because of course we have heard about we need to sustain the landscape for the future generations. I think if you read what we call it, Brundtland's report, so it evolved from the 1992 Brundtland report on the sustainable development. So coming back to our issues, when we talk about cultural landscape, the protection and whatnot, I think the issue has been quite popular among the built environment circles. Okay, and even the laymen also come to aware about that. Okay, that's why the issue has become quite popular in the contemporary studies. So in order to protect a cultural landscape, or perhaps most of us like to use the word conservation. In order to conserve a landscape, perhaps first of all we need to identify the significant values inherited in the landscape. So by having that information, it can actually assist us for the kind of protections that need to be done on the site, and perhaps it helps us to identify the types of heritage management and also the type of enforcement. Okay. From there, a specific value of a cultural landscape is determined. Beside cultural, what are other values which need to be identified? So we need to understand a landscape, a cultural landscape may consist of multiple values, such as natural, architectural, environmental, ecological, and others. Okay, for instance, if we take a look of Fraser Hill, okay, hill ecosystem, definitely it has cultural landscape left by the colonial. It has architectural value. It has natural values. So among these values, we need to verify which value would be the most significant for us to actually preserve, restore, or conserve. So an effective identification exercise is thought effective, okay, when it involves both parties, such as public and authority. Okay, talking about that, there are several conservation models found having engaged the public to identify the values of the cultural landscape. So, what is the significant value that the people prefer the most? Why we should engage the people? Because landscape is considered in many what we call it, in many occasions, landscape is can considered belong to the public. So they have every right to say that this is my landscape, this is the value that I would like to defend or to protect. So for instance, if we study the conservation system practiced in the municipality of Kyoto and in the state of New South Wales, we found that the right of the public is given to them at the early stage of the identification of the value of a landscape. Okay, it's just that the level of identification, perhaps it ends until the state, and sometimes it may ends until the national level. So it depends on the legislation of the what we call it, the policy or the act that the municipal or the state has engaged with. Okay, A community then, for instance, in Kyoto, is asked to identify the value of the landscape with the support of what we call it documented conservation system imposed by the authority, and they are given the right to actually take care of the landscape after having assessed the values. Okay, if the authority found out that the value of the landscape has the potential to be listed in the World Heritage Site, so there will be another process, process of conservation taking place, and that actually when come to that process, the role of the authority has become greater in that particular session. Okay, so cultural landscape sometimes can be complex. Okay, I myself thought cultural landscape is very unique because it can happen in an urban or rural setting. Okay, we can actually identify cultural landscape in a park, in a garden, or in a historic site. And in fact, in Malaysia, I think it's quite fascinating because cultural landscape can be identified in our agricultural landscape, such as our paddy field. Okay, and that is the question whether whenever the development take place and our paddy field will get sacrificed for the purpose of development. So that is a question whether we still want to protect our cultural landscape in terms of paddy field. Okay, cultural heritage constitute to a living heritage, reflecting mutual influences of diverse group of people and the equally varied places they inhabit. So the complexity of a cultural landscape involves two parties. Whenever it involves people, it becomes complex. People have diversity of background, races, ethnics, values, and so forth. Okay, so like society, a landscape continually evolve. They're alive, something alive. Okay, if you want to look in that way. So in that case, management demands for social and environmental understanding. So it takes two actually. It needs to have social, it needs to have the environment. Cultural landscape in many cases define the sense of place. I think most of us, I think in the school of design are aware about that. People always talk about placemaking, what we call it, landscape. Okay, of course, when you say a placemaking landscape, it embodies tangible and intangible heritage. Okay, for that reason and others, the issue can be critical, and it's quite, I think more people are aware about that, and even the study on cultural landscape relating to heritage study have become popular. Okay, in the research as well as in the curriculum. So sometimes I think without realizing it, our landscape were once of cultural or natural, or in fact both. Okay, issue of cultural and natural is clearly described in the World Heritage category. I just want to point out one interesting what we call it, something like a manifesto by the UNESCO. The what we call it, the organization mentioned that fostering preservation and restoration of outstanding cultural and natural areas of the world. So this is like something, the tagline of the UNESCO. It has emphasis on cultural and natural landscape. There are three categories of heritage site objects or object listed under the UNESCO. first cultural, one natural, and the other one is mixed. Okay, so they have a broad categories on both category. They have a broad categories on both area. Okay, so I think UNESCO has played its roles clearly by having a framework for the international cooperation in protecting cultural treasure and natural areas throughout the world. So it's depend to us, as a country, part of that, how we're going to protect our cultural landscape, and in which direction that we want to actually focus the conservation, the preservation, or the restoration. Okay, there's no issue of cultural landscape overpowers of natural landscape, or vice versa. Okay, thus it is hoped that the future 2050 development of our cultural landscape would consider regenerating a conservation model. Though we have our model, but perhaps we need to regenerate a more effective model that can sustain the heritage site and object. Okay, with that, I adjourn this discussion and happy to respond to any question posted from the audience. Thank you.
Thank you for Dr. Jamila for her presentation. After both sharing session just now, briefly said, landscape architect is not only about planting trees and greeneries. It also involves design that affect mental health, physical health of the end user. Landscape architecture important as the overall planning, and this also includes cultural heritage conservation. So a landscape architect need to able to tackle the environmental issues that keep on rising these days. And with that, now I will open the question and answer session to the audience here today. Anyone with the question that you would like to ask?
Assalamualaikum and good morning to everyone. My name is Muhammad Ainul Hayat bin Abu Hashim, and I am a third year student of landscape architecture. And I would like to ask one question to LAR UMRAN, which is globally the world strives to recover our degraded natural resources in every aspect of ecological design. Will sustainable technologies produced in the 21st century be extended beyond ecological studies, involving economic and sociological development? Okay, that is my question. Thank you.
Thanks, I know, for the question. Okay, definitely the technology we're having now is helping the action we want to recover the environment. So as I mentioned before, we as a human, because we want to fulfill our needs, we disturb the nature. So as a landscape architect, we really need to understand our role and try to rehabilitate the environment. And right now, some of the technology that I think is really need to use more in the future, and such as solar power lighting, be it lighting or other equipment, but using the solar power. Because solar is the sunlight solar is free, then we if we harvest this free source of energy and utilize in our area, we get a lot of benefits, such as we reduce the use of cable, we reduce the use of energy, and without all these demands to the electricity, you actually subsequently you help a lot, because when you reduce the substation, you actually reduce the remaining transmitter. You actually no need to have all these substation that connect to your place, and without all this demand to the direct electricity, we actually no need to build so much of them. Dam is something they will damage the environment during the dam construction, and the chain effect is actually a lot, including damage to the the wildlife, the ecosystem at the original space, and disturb the water drainage and water system. And the second one is rainwater harvesting. And rainwater harvesting is very important to mitigate the flooding issue. As I mentioned before, because we have no space to let the water seep through into the ground, then what we can do, we actually can install this rainwater harvesting system in the development itself. So we store the water, and by storing this water, we can slow down the surface runoff that go to the drain, and eventually the river have enough time to channel the water to the sea. And the other good thing of this rainwater harvesting is we reduce the use of direct water, because we have this water, and you know rain is free also, it fall from the sky. So why not we just follow our ancestor culture? We just store, you know, during last time during the raining day, what we do, we store the water and later on use for wash the floor and so on. So this system is actually just keep the free water from the sky and later on use to flush in the toilet, irrigate the plants, wash the floor. And the third technology I can think of is permeable paving. This permeable paving is where the hard surface that allow water to seep through. So this is also one of the technology that we can use to reduce the flooding issue. And this paving basically installed on the surface of ground, of course with all this foundation underneath, but the water actually seep through and go through the crusher run and go into the ground. So by let the water seep through into the ground, we actually balance back the hydrological system instead of let the water surface run off, go to the drain, go to the river. And I believe technology is something that keep improving from time to time. So from now on, I will hope that a lot more technology we can have in the future, and to reduce this damage what we did before. So we try to recover all these damages. So I hope next time the student out there, they will understand how important we understand all these ecological science, and with this help of technology, we can educate our client, let them have slightly more little budget but very big impact and benefits for the future. Okay, thanks.
Any more question?
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Hazamal bin Muhammad Sofian from 3rd year Landscape Architecture. I would like to ask question to our second panel, which is Assistant Professor Dr. Jamila binti Osman, regarding cultural landscape. So basically, cultural landscape always associated with a historic event, culture and aesthetic value. However, cultural landscape today valuable for nature conservation? If so, which one more likely to be a better preservation? Is it cultural landscape or nature conservation restoration project? Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Hazamal, for the question. So I try to answer to that question. Okay. So I would like to suggest that cultural and natural landscape should be developed with mutual understanding and sensitivity in order to succeed the future 2050 agenda. Why I'm saying that is that there are two categories that have close heritage relationship and remain confined and valid in the landscape conservation paradigm. Combination of both categories will address the current issues on global society and environment based on the UNESCO Manifesto as described in 1972. Preservation of cultural and natural landscape have equal importance in shaping the future landscape for the society. So, the public should be given equal decision to determine the significant value in landscape with support of legislature, meaning that we need to have a certain policy and act actually to monitor, okay, the expectation of the public on their cultural landscape. A preserved, restored or conserved landscape can only sustain through effective enforcement that can be traced in the conservation system developed in Kyoto and New South Wales. So here, legislation is mandatory to sustain our heritage landscape for the future 2050 agenda. Okay, so with that, I hope that I answered to your question. Thank you.
All in all, we are already at the end of our webinar session today. We have gained a lot from these two wonderful speakers just now. Thank you, dear speakers, for your time today. And I am sure they are also put in hours to the preparation. A quote from Professor Madya LR Dr. Suhardi Maulan from Ilam. Landscape architects are involved in public spaces that are important for the people's well-being as well as the conservation of natural resources. That's all. Assalamualaikum and thank you.
Thank you, LAR Liu Yingyi and Assistant Professor Dr. Jamila Osman for the forum address. May the knowledge we gained this morning will be beneficial to ourselves and the others in the future.
Now, the opening ceremony has come to an end. Once again, thank you everyone for gracing UMRAN 2020 with your presence. On behalf of UMRAN team, we appreciate your kind consideration and support towards the event. Dear ladies and gentlemen, the parallel sessions for the seminar presentation will start shortly at 11:35 AM. The oral presentation will be held at 5 respective venues, which are Seminar Room 5, Seminar Room 6, Seminar Room 7, Seminar Room 8, and also Briefing Room. You can obtain the information on the venues for each sub-themes to the provided link at UMRAN Bhinneka 2020. You can also refer to the presenters' name list from the stated venues. We shall now invite the VIPs and office bearers to pursue to outside briefing room for some refreshment. Participants are also invited to the outside briefing room to take your refreshment. With that, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.